Right, we are moving to the chapter number 3, strategic positions. In chapter number 2, we look at about the external environment. In chapter number 3, we are looking about the internal environment. In the rationale model, this analysis was identified as strategic position analysis. So, we look at about the content of this. There are 5 topics to be discussed: the nature of business value, value creation and the value chain, the value network, competitive advantage, resources and competences, then benchmarking. Before moving to the topic number 1, I will explain the summary of these discussions. The rationale model, so we identify we want to analyze our environment, both internal and the external environment. Then external environment we analyze through 2 main tools, 5 forces and the appraisal analysis. In addition to that one, actually we look at about the portfolio analysis also through BCG and the product life cycle. So, we cover this one in chapter 2 discussions, Then we are moving to this chapter 3. Here the objective is to analyze the internal environment. By analyzing internal environment, we want to identify the strength and the weaknesses of the organizations. Right. To analyze our internal environment, we are going to use 3 main tools for that purpose. Value chain is the main tool we are going to use, value chain. Then second one is resources and competency analysis. Then the third one is benchmarking. These are the 3 tools we are going to use. Right. Topic number 1, we are going to discuss about business value. Now, you may have a problem why we want to discuss about the business value, since right, the first tool we have to discuss is value chain. Under the value chain model, we are discussing how value is created within the organizations. To approach value chain model, we should have an understanding about what is business value. Therefore, we discuss this particular topic. So, look at what is business value. So, value mean the measure of the worth of something. So, value mean measure of the worth of something. යමක් කොච්චර වටිනාකමකින් යුක්තද කියන එක මැනීමක් තමයි අපි මේ value කියන එකෙන් සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ. For example, if you purchase a pen from a shop, you pay 10 rupees. So, that the value of the pen. No? So, we discuss value from different stakeholder point of view. We are going to discuss value from different stakeholder point of view. I am going to look at about the main stakeholder group. I am going to identify actually 5 main stakeholder group: shareholders, customers, employees, suppliers and the society. From their point of view, value may have a different meaning. Value identified by the shareholder may vary from the value identified by the customer. So, first of all, we look at about the value from the shareholder point of view. The value of the shareholder is the value of their shares, or in other words, value of their investment. They are worried about that. They want to increase the value of their investment. How can organization satisfy the shareholder value? What organization want to do is they want to make profit, that the number one conditions, after making profit they want to declare dividend for them, then shareholder will get the required return for their investment. Then customer point of view, what is value from customer point of view? Value refers to the value of the good or services they buy, value of the good or services they buy. So, normally customer will buy good from organization which provide more value than the good provided by the other competitive organizations. Normally customers will compare value received from one good to another. Therefore, organization want to ensure they are giving the best value to the customers. Then what is employee value? Right. From employee point of view, value refers to the work experience they receive from their employers. So, when you say work experience, the work experience is determined to so many factors. What is the number one factor that give the maximum satisfaction for you in workplace? Number one factor you are looking about is salary and other benefit you receive, no? Your salary and other benefit is the number one factor that determine the work experience. Not only that, there are some other factors that determine the value received from the work for employee. For example, job security. I think these days you are experienced that one, right? So, especially if you are working in a private sector organization, right, you may have some doubt about your job. Even I remember last week one student called me and says, I lost my job, my company has sent me a letter and say that they have terminated my service, right. So, job security will give a value. For example, if you are a permanent employee in a government organization, then you are more secured, no. So, that also give a value to the employee, that is another factor. Then working conditions, then supervisor, the behavior of the supervisor, whether he is very friendly, whether he is helping you, right. Those all these factors will determine the value received from the jobs, no, right. Then supplier, now what is supplier value? It has a two-way relationship, each create value for other. From organization point of view, organization can get value from the supplier by having more reliable and responsive suppliers. So, if you have more reliable and responsive suppliers, then you can get a more value from the supplier. Then at the same time, supplier also get value from the organization. Since organization purchase their good, they get the revenue from the organizations. The societal value, what is societal value? Societal value refers to the value of societies and communities in which business organization operate. For an example, social welfare activity performed by the organizations. From society point of view, they need them more. Then organization has a responsibility to give more value to society by allocating more money for some welfare activities, social welfare activities, right. So, then I am moving to very important model, that is value change. So, earlier I identified three main tools which can be used to analyze the internal environment. The first one is value chain, right. So, I am going to discuss what is value chain with you. Right. What is value chain? Now, already there is a definition given. Look at the given definition here. Activities within an organization that add value to purchase input of materials. Activity within an organization that add value to purchase input of materials. So, here we look at about the internal activities of the organizations, right. So, I am going for another definition of the value chain. Value chain describe value creating activities, value creating activities of the organizations, Value chain describe value creating activities of the organizations. So, if you combine these two definitions together, here we look at about the internal activities take place within the organizations that ultimately create value to the customer. We purchase raw material from the supplier, then within the organization we have a process, through those process finally we make the output. We are looking about that whole process under the value chain, since it create value to the customer, right. If you look at about the value chain model, this was introduced by Michael Porter. Within the value chain, he identified two main activities take place within the organizations, First one, primary activities, second one is support activities, primary activities and support activities. So, what is primary and support activity here? Primary activities are the activities which are directly concerned with creation or delivery of a product or service. So, primary activity mean activities which are directly concerned with creation or delivery of a product or service. Here the key word is directly concerns, activity directly connect with the creation or delivery of a product or service, we identify as primary activities. What is support activities? Activities which support primary activities we identify as support activities. In other words, activities which facilitate proper functioning of primary activities. We identify primary activities we identify as support activities. Activities which facilitate proper functioning of primary activities we identify as support activities, right. So, according to the value chain model, there are five primary activities and 4 support activities. So, look at the way I am drawing the value chain model. Right. So, this portion I allocate for the primary activities, this part for the support activities. This one is margin. I did not define what is margin. Margin is the difference between selling price and the cost. Difference between selling price and the cost we identify as margin. Right, in Michael Porter's value chain model, Porter has identified five activities take place. What are the five activities identified by the Michael Porter? Inbound logistic, operations, outbound logistic, marketing and sales, services. When you are drawing the value chain model, make sure you are not going to change the sequential order given in the primary activities. Why? These activities takes place in a sequential order. In other words, one activity follow another activity. Therefore, you have to comply with that particular requirement. Then there are 4 support activities. Firm infrastructure, then human resource management, technology development, procurement. Firm infrastructure, human resource management, technology development and procurement. Right. So, we will look at about the meaning of each. Right. Look at the meaning of each. So, first of all, we will look at about inbound logistic, inbound logistic. Look at this word inbound logistic. Here we are talking about something coming into the organizations. Inbound logistic. What come into the organizations? Raw material, no, mainly. Right. So, if you look at the inbound logistic, there are few activities we identify here. Suppose this is suppliers. Right, inbound logistics, so we can identify few sub activity within the inbound logistic. Receiving raw material from suppliers into the organization, receiving raw material from suppliers into the organizations. Then storing and handling raw material received within the warehouse, say storing raw material within the warehouse, then issuing raw material to the productions. work. There are three sub-activities covered under the inbound logistic: receiving raw material into the organization, storing and handling raw material within the warehouse, then issuing raw material to the production work. So, if we look at about the value chain model, see, primary activity start from the inbound logistic. So, we start our operation after receiving raw material from the suppliers now, right. Then what is the second activity? Second activity is operations. Now here suppose this is the manufacturing plant. So, what is operation actually? Operation refers to manufacturing activities of the organizations, manufacturing process, in other words, manufacturing process of the organizations where input is converted into output, Now, the activities take place in the manufacturing plant, we identify as operation activities. You may use machine, you may get the help of labor, through that ultimately you will make the final products. Then look at the third one. Third one is outbound logistic. So, what is outbound logistics? Here look at the word outbound logistic. Here we talk about something going out from the organizations. What is going out from the organization? Is it raw material or finished good? Normally finished good is going out from the organizations. So, therefore, here we talk about something related with the finished goods. Right. So, after good have been manufactured, can we sell it immediate to the customers? No, we are not in a position to sell good immediate to the customer. We have to wait until customer demand the products. So, until customer demand, what we have to do is we have to keep the produced good in finished good warehouse. That is the number one activity related to the outbound logistics. So, keeping finished good in a warehouse is the first activity in relation to outbound logistic. Then when customer demand it, you have to issue them to the customer, For example, you have to transport it to the customer's location. That is the number two activity in relation to the outbound logistics. So, under the inbound logistic, we look at about raw material coming into the organization. Under the outbound logistic, we look at about the finished good which is going out from the organizations. Right. Then I am moving to the next, that is marketing and sales. The fourth activity, marketing and sales. What is marketing and sales activities? Activities which are involved in giving awareness to the customer about the company product and create interest on that and persuade them to buy the products, we identify as marketing and sales activities. Activities related with giving awareness, create interest and persuade them to buy company product and services, we identify as marketing and sales activities. Example, advertising, example advertising, when you have make advertisement and publish them in mass medias, people come to know about the product. When you are when customers see the advertisement again and again, interest may be created. As a result, he may purchase the products. Right. Then the next one in the model is service. What is service? Service mean after service activities. Service mean after sales activities. After sales activities we identify as service. So, what are the example? For example, installations. There are certain products, after selling the product, a technical support person should come and install the product within the organization. For example, machinery. Then training. So, for a certain product, organization want to get the required training to operate it. Training, then customer care services given. For example, faults. When there is a fault in the products, right? You have to repair works. That also example for the service activity, right. So, with that we can complete these primary activities and we will move to the support activities. Move to support activities. Support activities, right. Here the first one is procurement. What is procurement? Procurement refers to the activity related with purchasing material and other item, from suppliers, material and other item from suppliers. Right. Procurement mean activity related with purchasing material and other item from suppliers. So, what are the example on this? So, think about how a organization purchase good from suppliers. Can they purchase from any known parties without applying a particular procedure? No, they have to use some of the procurement guideline given for them. For example, so when there is a requirement, what they will do? They will call quotation from different suppliers, then evaluate those quotations, then take a decision to purchase the good from the supplier who offer the good at the lowest price, right. So, that is an example of procurement activity. Actually, procurement activities come into end when a particular supplier is selected. Then next one is technology development. Technology development. So, under the technology development, we are discussing the activity related with the technologies, there are some activities which are focusing on developing the existing technology or maintaining the value received from the technologies. So, here we look at about such activities. For an example, IT department, research and development department, they are example for technology development activities. Then the human resource management, HR management. What is HR management? Human resource management. So, activity related to recruitment, recruit talented individuals, then develop them and retain with the organization, we identify as human resource management activities. So, activity related to recruit, develop and retain talented individual to the organization, we identify human resource management activities. There are so many HR related activities. We will discuss that one under the peoples and value creation part. Then firm infrastructure. What is firm infrastructure? Firm infrastructure, activity related to planning, quality control, finance, organized structure and culture, we identify as firm infrastructure. Activity related to planning, quality control, finance, organized structure and culture, we identify as firm infrastructure. Here I saw one nice definition in one of the book. It say activities which are not covered from the other activities in the value chain can be identified as firm infrastructure. Very simple definitions. So, your function, that is finance function, come under the firm infrastructure, right. So, with that we can complete the support activities also. Right. Then I can move to the next topic. Using the value chain concept to add value. How can we use value chain concept to add value? There are two main ways we can create value from the value chain model. The first one is understanding the activities within their organizations that should add value. By using the value chain model, we can understand what type of activity organization is having to create value for the customer. That is the number one understanding we can get. If you look at the value chain model, we found there are 9 activities that create value for the organizations. But this may differ from one organization to another. For example, service oriented organizations, there may be more activities. That is the first thing we can do. The second thing is look for ways of improving the way that activities are performed in order to add more value. By using this value chain model, we can look at about some of the way we can use to get more value to the organizations. How can you do that? For example, you can use benchmarking. You can compare your value chain activities with another competitor value chain activities. By comparing with another competitor, So, we can identify some weaknesses of our value chain. If you have the cost information of the competitor, then you can use this model to even identify some inefficient activity within the organizations, right. If I take very simple example to illustrate this, how this can be used to improve the way the activities are performed in order to add more value. You see a very simple example. Suppose this is our value chain. Suppose the cost of our product is 9 rupees, cost of our product is 9 rupees. We add 1 rupee margin and sell the product at 10 rupee, selling price is 10. The competitor sell the product at 950, right. If you look at about this scenario, look at the competitor. Now, he is experiencing a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Why he experiences a competitive advantage? He offers the good at a lower price than our product price. So, you have to look at about this scenario carefully. So, you look at about the margin added by the competitor, assume competitor also adding 1 rupee margin, his cost is 850. Now, if you have the information, then you can do a detailed cost analysis of your activities and the competitor activities. For an example, suppose your primary activity, each activity 1 rupee is added, 5 rupee from primary activities, then 4 rupees from the support activities. You look at the competitor support activities, is also 4 rupee, nothing wrong with that. Then you look at the primary activities, competitor inbound logistic cost is 50, operation 150, outbound logistic 50 cents, then other two 1 rupee, 1 rupee. Now, if you compare your value chain with the competitor value chain, it is clearly evidence you have two inefficient activities within your organizations. One is inbound logistic. Why? Your cost is 1 rupee, but competitor cost is 50 cents. Then other activity is outbound logistics, same cost amount. Now, you can look at about the reason for this one in details. For example, suppose you use traditional inventory management systems. You have inventory head, storekeeper, you have store assistants, you use some traditional document like bin cards, you have more people because of the traditional procedure apply. At the same time, there are a lot of issues like some goods are not issued on time, as a result, so lot of issues. For example, expiry date is past, obsolete item, it become obsolete items, lot of issues, right. But competitor is suppose use just in time inventory management system, JIT inventory management system. Through IT system, he has implemented JIT concepts, right. As a result, he is experiencing a low cost, but your cost is higher than that. Now, what you can do? Now, here it say look for ways of improving the way that activities are performed in order to add more value. Now, what you can do is you can replace your inefficient activities with the more efficient activities by implementing JIT inventory management systems. So, value chain help for that particular purpose for you. Right, that is clear for you. There may be some other areas also you can look at, for example, linkage among the activities. What is the meaning of linkage among activities? For example, there may be some relationship exist between primary and support activities. For example, procurement and inbound logistic is connected to each other. To perform inbound logistic activity, procurement activity should have been completed. So, you have to improve this relationship. If marketing people are not dealing with the operational people properly, that may destroy the value. There is another thing you can look at. Improve the linkage among the value creating activities. Right. Then we can move to the next concept, value network. I am not going to detail of value network. Look at the definition of value network. This consists of the interconnected value chains of organization in the supply chain from raw material production to the end consumer. This consists of the interconnected value chain of all organizations in the supply chain from raw material production to the end consumer. So, if you look at the value network and the supply chain, is there a difference between these two? No. This value network principle was introduced by Michael Porter, but generally the same scope is identified as a value network. Right. So, what is value network? Interconnected value chain of all organizing the supply chain raw material production to end consumer. You say for example, here supplier 1, here supplier 2, then manufacturer, then distributor, retailer, customer. At each stage value is created. For example, supplier 1 may provide raw material at 10 rupee, then supplier 2 may create part from the raw material purchase, he may at 10, at the end of his value chain he may sell the product at 20, manufacturer may add another 10 by using the part 30, distributor another 10, 40, retailer another 10, 50, right. So, when you take the value chain of all these parties, we call this one as value network. Starting from raw material manufacturing, here start from the raw material manufacturing and ending with the final consumer. Right. With that we can complete the value chain topic and we can move to topic number 4, competitive advantage, resources and competences. Right. So, what is competitive advantage? What is competitive advantage? So, look at the definitions. Competitive advantage is an advantage that a business organization has over its rivals. Here who is rival? Rivals mean the competitors, improving its prospect of selling its product or services to customers and creating value. So, competitive advantage is an advantage that a business organization has over its rivals that help them to sell more product than the competitors. So, in simple term, what is competitive advantage? An edge over competitors. If you have some edge over competitors, that can be identified as competitive advantage. How do you know whether you have a competitive advantage or not? To measure that, you can use some of the indicators. For an example, market share. If you are enjoying higher market share than the competitors, that indicate you have a competitive advantage. For an example, dialogue. The telecommunication industry, mobile telecommunication industry, they have the largest market share. That means they have some advantage over competitors in the market. Another example is Apple. So, Apple enjoy almost 50% of the total profit of the smartphone industry. That indicate they have a competitive advantage compared with the others in the industry. Right. Then what is resource based view, RBV? So, look at the definition. Resources that an organization has is possession of and its control give it the ability to compete in its industry and markets. ආයතනය සන්තකයේ හෝ පාලනයේ තිබෙන්නා වූ සම්පත් මගින් ආයතනයට අවශ්‍ය කරන වෙළඳපොලේ තරඟකාරීත්වය පවත්වාගෙන යන්න අවශ්‍ය කරන හැකියාව ලබා දීම පිළිබඳව තමයි මේ resource based view එකෙන් අපි කතා කරන්නේ. It discuss about the resources of the organizations which is owned or controlled by the organizations that provide the competitive advantage to the organizations. Here the focus area is on the importance of having some valuable resources within the organizations. If we have some valuable resources others do not have, that can provide a competitive advantage to the organizations. If you look at about the organization like Apple, what they do? If you look at Apple, they focus on the good human resources. For example, like software developers, right? They acquire the best resource in the industry. That best resource provide the competitive advantage for them. These human resources create new products that ultimately deliver the competitive advantage for the Apples. It is a very small topic, resource based view. Topic. So, under internal environment analysis, we identify three main tools which can be used to analyze the internal environment. The first one was value chain model. We have just completed that particular model. Now, I am moving to the second one. Second one is resources and competences, right. If you look at about the strategic capabilities of the organizations, strategic capabilities of the organizations can be divided into two main groups. One is resources, other one is competences. First one is resources, other one is competences. Then within the resources we can identify two groups, threshold resources, then the second one is unique resources. Similarly, under the competences we can identify two groups, threshold competences, then core competences. Right. So, what is resource? Right. So, what is resources? Resource mean any input which can be used in the production process. Or if I go for another definition, I can say anything which can be used as an input in the production process, we can identify as a resource. What is competences? Under these competences, we look at about the application side of the resources. Application side of the resources, when you are using resources in practice, competences are created, right. So, we look at about the different group of resource and competences. Resources can be divided into two main group, threshold resources and unique resources. At the same time, we can identify two main competences, threshold competences and the core competences. Right. First of all, we look at about the threshold resources and the unique resources. What is the meaning of threshold? Threshold means the minimum level, no? Right. Look at the definition here, threshold resources. Threshold resources, resources that an organization must have to meet the minimum requirement and expectation of customers. This very important word, must have. අඩුම ගානේ මේ ටිකවත් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මේ ටික නැත්තම් අපිට වෙළඳපොළ තුල තරඟ කරන්න බෑ. So next center, look at the next center. Without threshold resources, an organization cannot compete at all. They are not in a position to compete if you don't have this at least. Then what is unique resources? Resources that competitors find difficult or impossible to imitate. These are very difficult to find and at the same time very difficult to copy also. There is a very important sentence related to this. They are capable of giving the organization a competitive advantage over rival firm. Unique resource can provide a competitive advantage to the organizations. Very important sentence. They are capable, they have the ability, right, to provide the competitive advantage to the organizations. If I take an example to illustrate this further, suppose there is a tuition place where there are 100 lecturers, 100 lecturers. From 100 lecturers, assume there are 95 lecturers who can lecture and cover the syllabus, but can't give anything special compared with the competitor organization lecturers. Nothing special in there. So, but there are 5 lecturers, they are different from others, they are capable of generating more pass rate and more prize winners. So, in this scenario, that 5 lecturers can be identified as unique resources and that 95 lecturers we can identify as threshold resources. Who is better? Unique resources are better compared to the threshold resources. Right. But remember, there is a very important word here. They are capable of giving the organization. They have the ability. That does not mean always they will provide a competitive advantage. You have to use them properly. Within the organization, right processes should be existed. If within the organization right processes are not existed, then this even unique resource will not be able to give a competitive advantage to the organizations. Then I am moving to the next one, threshold competences and core competences. What is competences? Proficiency, no? In a particular area we identify as competences. When resources are used in practice, competences are created. We can identify two types of competences, threshold competences and core competences. What is threshold competences? Look at the definitions here. Activities and processes needed to meet customers' minimum requirement. Activities and processes needed to meet customers' minimum requirement we identify as threshold competences. For example, in a tuition institute lecturing, whether that guy is delivering good or bad is not applicable, you should have a lecturer who can deliver, right. So, threshold competences. Core competences, what is core competences? Activities that create competitive advantage, that can provide a competitive advantage to the organizations. They are difficult for competitors to imitate or obtain. These are very difficult for competitors to imitate or obtain. Competitive advantage come from unique resource and core competences. These are difficult or impossible for competitors to imitate or obtain. You can get the competitive advantage from unique resource and core competences. These are difficult for competitors to imitate or obtain. If you look at about these four carefully, I said competences look at about the application side of the resources, the activities and processes we needed to deploy the resources. Then I identify two types of resources, threshold resources and unique resources. At the same time, I identify two types of competences, threshold competences and core competences. Now, already we know the meaning. Now, if you have a threshold resources, can it provide a competitive advantage to the organizations? What is the answer? Answer is no. Why? It can only meet the minimum requirement of the customer. This can't provide a competitive advantage. So, if I look at the competitive advantage factor, this can't provide competitive advantage. Can unique resource provide a competitive advantage to the organization? Yes, they are capable of providing competitive advantage to the organizations. They can attract more customers to the organizations. Threshold resources, again here threshold resources, so threshold competences here, competences, threshold competences here, again these are the activities and processes needed to meet the minimum requirement that will not provide a competitive advantage to the organizations. Core competences that can provide a competitive advantage to the organizations. If you have threshold resources, can threshold resources create core competences? What is the answer? Can threshold resource provide a core competence? No. If you have threshold resources that can create threshold competences, since it deals with the minimum scenario. If you have unique resources that can provide core competences. But remember, if you do not have the right processes within the organizations, unique resources can't provide or create core competences. That may also end up with threshold competences. Think about you, sometime you may have experience. You have a competence in particular area, you have knowledge, suppose you have a chartered qualifications, you are working in the marketing department, what do you think? If you are working in the marketing department, can you use your knowledge you have? No. Even though you are a unique resource, the right process is not there for you to deliver. In that scenario, you will end up with creating threshold competences to the organizations. I think it's clear for you. So, look at this summary table. Resources what we have to compete and survive, we call threshold resources. Resources which provide a competitive advantage, we identify as unique resources. Competences which is helpful to survive, called threshold. Competences which provide a competitive advantage to the organization, we call it as co-competence. Right. Now look at this 4.3 also, resources and limiting factors. Now we are discussing this tool under the position audit, position analysis. In other words, we are discussing this one under the internal environment analysis. Look at resource audit. A resource audit is a review of all aspects of the resources the organization use. A resource audit is a review of all aspects of the resource the organization use. Here we review the resources we have. By reviewing, we try to identify the good resources and the bad resources we have. In other words, strength and the weaknesses. Unique resources which generate co-competence will be identified as strength. Threshold resources, threshold competences, those are not strength of the organizations. The MS model can be used for which gave a useful listing of the resource that an organization may have at its disposal. MS model, that means there are different names we use, no, like material, money, then so men, machines, methods, you may remember 5M, no, even that can be expanded into 10M, no. So you can use MS model while you are doing this resource audit under the internal environment analysis. Right. In addition to identifying and classifying resources, a resource audit should consider how well, how bad the resources have been utilized and whether the organization systems are effective and efficient. So resource audit should consider how well or how bad the resources have been utilized and whether the organization system are effective and efficient. By using this one, we can come to conclusion whether they are performing well or not. Right. Then 4.4, improving the value chain and competitive advantage. Already you know what is value chain. At the same time, you know what is competitive advantage also. Now here we try to connect these two together. So under the competitive advantage, we identify that is an advantage a particular organization is having over the competitors in the marketplace. So how can deliver more value to the customer? To get a competitive advantage, you must deliver more value to the customers. There are two strategies you can use for that purpose. One is cost leadership strategy, other one is differentiation strategy. Under the cost leadership strategy, what we are trying to do? We are trying to produce the good at the lowest cost and we are trying to offer good at the lowest price to the marketplace. So in there, our objective is to give the same value to the customers provided by the competitor, but at a lower cost. Under differentiation strategy, so what we are trying to do? Under differentiation strategy, we are trying to create more value to the customers than the competitors. In there, customers are willing to pay price premium to get the products. For example, we may try to offer a high quality product to the customer. By providing high quality product to the customers, we may try to give more value to the customers than the competitors. Right. So value chain can be used for that purpose also. For example, within the value chain, if you have ensured that you have the lowest cost activities, that will help you to apply the cost leadership strategy. In there, you are able to offer the good at the lowest price. And differentiation strategy, right? Here we try to offer unique product to the marketplace, where our product is having unique attribute compared with the other product in the marketplace. So value chain can be used for that purpose. For an example, the service element, we can provide better services than the others in the marketplace. For example, 24 hours customer care center. If others have only the daytime customer care center, we offer, right, 24-hour customer care center. So, that will help to give more value to the customer. Or others do not, suppose sales activity, suppose others do not have online purchasing facility, we offer online purchasing facility. You may experience that one during that COVID-19 time period, no, right. For example, organization like right, Kales, actually they did not have their online website, right. They had the website, but that was not a successful one. Due to this matter, again they have to recommence the website, no, right. Right. Then we can move to 4.5, qualities of strategic capabilities, WIN. So, what are the qualities of strategic capabilities? There are 4 factors. 4 factors. Those 4 factors we call as WIN. First one is value to customers, second one is rarity, third one is inimitability, fourth one is non-substitutability. Right. So, what is the meaning of each one? So, WIN mean the value to customers mean organization ability to satisfy its customers needs, whether particular product provide a value to the customer is depend on the ability of product to fulfill the customer need. If that particular product is able to meet the exact customer need, then we can say that valuable criteria is met. Then the second one is rarity. So, rarity means in simple word not widely available. If your resource is not widely available, so that can be identified as a rare resource. If it is widely available, then others also can have the same resource. Then inimitability. So, difficulty of imitating it. If your resource can be copied by others easily, then it does not have the inimitability requirement. Non-substitutability, this is something competitors do not need, because they can do the same thing by using different resources. WIN factors, right. So, in the exam you may be given a particular scenario and you may be asked to apply this WIN framework for the given resources, and accordingly you have to make the comments. Right. For example, to consider something as unique resources, and core competences, it should meet all these 4 criteria. It should be valuable to the customers, it should be rare, then it should be difficult to copy, or in other words immutability, and it should be a non-substitutable also. Right. If you look at about threshold resource and core competences, so openly they do not have these features, threshold resource and core competences, they so openly have only the valuable feature, right. Other 3 are not met by them, right. So, with that I am moving to the next one, dynamic and redundant capabilities. This is one of the concepts many people are struggle to understand, dynamic and redundant capabilities. Right. Dynamic විචලනය විය යුතු නැත්නම් වෙනස් විය යුතු කියන එක. redundant කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? අතහැරිය යුතු කියන එක. Dynamic and redundant capabilities. So, first of all we look at about the dynamic capabilities. What is dynamic capabilities? Ability of a firm to integrate, build and refigure internal and external competences. Ability of a firm to integrate, build and refigure internal and external competences. So, look at this definition carefully. Ability of a firm, in other words capability of a firm to integrate. Integrate mean connect with another, build, that means the develop and refigure internal and external competences. For example, suppose you have a capability like A, right. So, there is another capability of B. Integrate mean you should be able to connect these together. The new one required is AB. Yeah. So, if you can create this AB, then you have dynamic capability. Build, suppose at the moment you have A, but that is not required now, that is outdated, right. In the market people need B, in that scenario you should be able to convert A into B. Then refigure, you have A but market wants C, so you have to adjust from A to C. In simple term, the dynamic capability mean organization ability to adjust themselves to the changing environment. That is dynamic capabilities. Organization ability to change themselves into the changing environment. This is one of the important concepts you should also learn, not only learn and adapt in your life. For example, market requirement for chartered accountant is changing rapidly. Your ability to acquire this new skill is vital to survive in the industry. For example, your knowledge in IT system, so that's really important. Your knowledge in data security, cyber security, your knowledge of using data analytical tools, those are some of the dynamic capabilities you have to have. If you do not have them, right, if you are unable to adjust yourself to meet these changes, then you will not be able to survive. That is why I say dynamic capability means organization ability to change or adjust themselves to the changing environment in the marketplace. Right. If you look at the operational capability, they deal with the current situations. Your operational capability mean the skill set you are having at the moment. Dynamic capability, think about the future. What is you are required to survive in the future? I talk about data security, I talk about information system knowledge. Those are some of the skills you should have to survive in the future, no? Right. Then redundant capability. It's a nice concept. අත්හැරිය යුතු කුසලතාවයන් කියන එක. What is redundant capability? Look at the redundant capability. Resources and competences that an organization's one word is missing, very important word has been missing in my presentation. Organization has built up, has word should be there, has built up, but which are no longer needed and no longer help to create value. Right. Redundant capability mean resource and competence that an organization has built up but which are no longer needed and no longer help to create value. This is something you have developed for so many years, has built up. When you use the word has, that means something start from the past, the result is at the present. So, you develop something for so many years, but which are no longer needed and no longer help to create value, but which is not no longer helpful you to create value. For example, when I did chartered, I learned SLS. I had a good knowledge about SLS. So, what is the meaning of having that knowledge now? Long time ago that was abolished, no? Right? So, that is redundant capability. If I have a love affair with my old knowledge, right, so it will give a natural death for me if I have not adjusted. So, what you have to do is you have to dispose these redundant capabilities and you have to get the new knowledge you required. There are a lot of case studies relevant to this. One important case study is Nokia, another one is Kodak. What happened to Nokia? Everyone know that. There was a time period where the Nokia was the market leader. Nokia had 40% of the market share. So, what happened to Nokia? Nokia had a love affair with the hardware side. They ignore about the smartphone capabilities. Organizations like Apple, Samsung, they were working with the smartphone capabilities. Nokia was too late to adapt to that. As a result, so Nokia is a bankrupt company, no? Finally, Microsoft purchased it, right? Another example is Kodak. Kodak had a love affair with analog cameras. For so many years, they were the market leader, but they failed to recognize the need of adjusting to the new technology of digital. They did not do that on time, but ultimately failed in the marketplace. So, therefore, remember, right, this very important concept, right, emphasize the need of dispose some of the capability which have been developed for so many years, but which will not give value in the future. You have to replace that one with new skill. That is the important point here. Right. How can you evaluate your strategic capabilities? How do you know whether your resources are far superior compared with your competitors or whether you have just average resources? For example, whether you have threshold resource or unique resource, how do you know that? For that purpose, we can use some tools. One tool we can use is benchmarking. So, we will discuss benchmarking later. Under benchmarking, what we are trying to do? We are trying to compare our capabilities with the competitors. By comparing ourselves with the competitors, we are trying to determine whether we have a far superior capability or similar one to them or inferior capability compared with them. Then another tool we can use for that is strength and weaknesses analysis. In there, we are trying to evaluate our strength and weaknesses. For example, we look at about our resources. We will say, for example, employees. We can categorize them into threshold and unique. Then value chain analysis and value network analysis. By looking about the value creating activities, we try to identify the strength and weaknesses. Accordingly, we try to take some decision later. So, with that we can complete that resources and competences part and we can move to the benchmarking. What is benchmarking? So, look at the definition of benchmarking. So, benchmarking is the evaluation of one's own performance by comparing it with the performance another. Benchmarking is the evaluation of one's own performance by comparing it with the performance another. So, here you are comparing yourself with the performance of another party. For example, for organization, what they can do is they can compare their performance with another organization in the same industry. That is an example of benchmarking. So, that will help you to determine whether you are far superior or you are similar to them or whether you are inferior to them. Right. There are different type of benchmarking. What are the different type of benchmarking? One is historical benchmarking, then second one is industry benchmarking, third one is best in class benchmarking. These are different type of benchmarking exercises. What is historical benchmarking? Look at historical benchmarking. In there, you are trying to compare your present performance with the past performance. I think this is very familiar for you. When you are presenting a finance statement, what you do normally? You show the past figures, then someone can easily recognize whether the organization is performing well or not compared with the past years. But here the issue is, here we are not looking about the competitors. No? Even though we have acquired some growth compared with the past, there may be some issues compared with the competitors. Our competitor may be performing well than our growth rate. So, that will not be recognized under this. That is one of the problem here, historical benchmarking. The next one is industry or sector benchmarking. Here we compare organizational performance with another player in our industry. So, normally we look at about the best player in the industry and we compare ourselves with that best player in the industry. This is very good method. Then we can determine whether we are performing well compared with them or not. Best in class benchmarking. What is best in class mean? There is a difference between industry benchmarking and the best in class benchmarking. Here we try to identify the best practice available. In that scenario, we may go out of our industry. The best practice may be available in some other industries. Now, you may have issue. What is the meaning of comparing ourselves with someone in different industry? Here the objective is to identify the best practice available. If you look at about the organization, most of the processes are similar. For example, inventory management. Inventory management is a very common activity which can be identified in any industry. For example, Toyota use inventory management. At the same time, Keels also use the inventory management. Keels in the supermarket industry. What Keels can do? Keels can see how inventory are managed by the Toyota. Assuming Toyota is having the best practice in the world in inventory management. So, in there, right, you go to a different industry and you try to identify the best practice available. So, that is an example for best in class benchmarking. Now, under the 5.1, I am trying to identify the benchmarking process. In other words, I am trying to identify the steps to be used when you are using the benchmarking exercise. There is no universally accepted one procedure for this. Here I am trying to discuss 8-step process given within your study text. Steps number 1. What is steps number 1? The first stage is to ensure senior management commitment to the benchmarking process. To conduct a benchmarking exercise, first of all you have to get the support from the top management. If they are not supporting this exercise, the value of this one will be very low. They should support this, they should believe this. That should be the step number 1. Then second one, step number 2, here we have to identify areas to be benchmarked. So, what are the areas where we want to benchmark? For example, inventory management. That is one example. Another example is purchasing procedure or selling procedure. Then step number 3, key performance measures must be established. In relation to the area we are trying to benchmark, we have to identify the KPIs. For an example, if it is inventory management, we can identify some KPI related to that. What are the KPIs we can use to measure the performance in inventory management? For example, stock turnover ratio. You may use stock turnover ratio for that particular purpose. Then steps number 4, select organization to benchmark against. You have determined with what organization you are going to benchmark. Is it within your industry or are you going out of your industry? In their scenario you are trying to apply best in class benchmarking. The step number 6 is compare performance, step number 5, next one is step number 5, measure own and others performance. In relation to KPI you have identified, you have to measure your performance, then you have to identify the performance of the others also. For example, in inventory management I took this KPI, what the KPI I took? I took stock turnover, no? You say our stock turnover ratio is, say 12, we measure our one, it is 12 stock turnover. We look at about the others also, suppose others one is 24, stock turnover is 24. The step number 6 is compare performance. Now you compare your performance with the others. Our stock turnover is 12, others is 24. Our one is 50% compared with others one. Others have 2 times efficiency in inventory management compared with us. The step number 7, design and implement improvement program. Now we have to design a better practice for inventory management. For example, JIT inventory management system, and that will be implemented. Step number 8 is monitor improvements. After some time, we have to check whether our performance is acceptable or not. If not, you have to take action to improve it, monitor improvements. Why we want to conduct benchmarking exercise? Reason for undertaking benchmarking: a position audit. Under that, actually now we do this. By using benchmarking, we can get an idea about our performance compared with others, whether our resources are performing well compared with them. Position audit. Benchmarking can assess a firm existing position and provide a basis for establishing standard of performance. The second one, the comparisons are carried out by managers who have to live with any changes implemented as a result of the exercise. These are carried out by the managers, no? Then ultimately they have to implement the changes. That is one of the reasons for benchmarking. The third one, benchmarking focus on improvement in any key areas and set targets which are challenging but evidently achievable. So this helps us to introduce some improvement to the existing processes. So here we try to improve our key areas and set target accordingly. The sharing of information can be a spark to innovations. So when you do benchmarking with another party, so you may get some good ideas from them, that will help you to make innovation in the future. Then E, the result should be improved performance, particularly in cost control and delivering value. That will help you to improve performance in the organizations. What are the drawbacks of benchmarking? What are the problem of benchmarking? It can cloud perception of strategic purpose by attracting too much attention to detail of what is measured. Here we worry about only the area we are measuring. So we have identified some areas, and in relation to them we have identified some KPIs. We are worrying about that, but we are not looking about the other aspect within the organization. That is one of the concerns. Only one area is concerns. The second one, benchmarking does not identify the reason why performance is at a particular level, whether good or bad. Suppose your performance is bad, but reason is not recognized, right? So you just come to conclusion is good or bad compared with the other guys. Reason is more important, no? If you have correct reason, then we can easily eliminate that reasons. Then the third one, it is a catching up exercise rather than the development of anything distinctive, but it catching up. So we look at about someone, right, then we try to achieve the same things. You try to improve ourselves to the level of that particular party. So just a catching up exercise. Then fourth one, it depends on accurate information about comparator companies, very important one. So if you do not have correct information or accurate information about the competitor, then your exercise is not worth, because you are doing the exercise based on incorrect informations. Very difficult to get the information, that is the issue. Even the competitor may not disclose the informations. It is not cost free and can divert management attention. You have to spend money on this. So openly you may get the help of external consultant do this. You have to pay for them. This is not cost free exercise. Then the last one, it can become a hindrance and even a threat, right? How that can happen? Hindrance mean it may act as a reduction in progress, no, and even a threat. For example, the good guy, right, who has allowed to see their processes, maybe in a threat situations, right. So because company information are leaked to others, so that creates threat for their survival purpose, right. So with that we can complete the strategic position and we can move to the next PPT. So I will move to the topic number 5, later I will come back to the topic number 4, because the process, if I look at about the process I discuss, the process can is related with the step number 4 easily. Right. Up to now, what we have done, right. So first of all, we discuss about the introductory topic. In there, we try to identify vision, missions, values, goals, objectives and targets for the organizations. So chapter 1 cover this, So, that was the first step we have to follow under the rationale model. No? So, then position analysis, chapter 2, in there our objective is to identify the strength and weaknesses, then sorry, here this is chapter 3, no, chapter 3, then we look at the environmental analysis, here the objective is to identify the opportunities and threat. This was covered in the chapter 2. We first look at about the external environment, then we came to the internal environment. No? Or in practice actually you can first look at about the internal environment, then you can go to the external environment. There is no issue. You can rotate that too. According to your study text, first we look in about the external environment in the model, then we look at about the internal environment. So, chapter 1 cover vision, mission, values, goals, objective and target. Chapter 2 cover the external environment analysis. Then chapter 3 cover the internal environment. Now, the next task is to merge the result we have obtained from both internal and external environment analysis. That is normally done through the corporate appraisal. Corporate appraisal is used to merge the result of these two analysis. The main tool we are going to use for that purpose is SWOT. SWOT is the main tool we are going to use for that particular purpose. If you remember the rationale model, so the result of these two were connect with the corporate appraisal, right. So, in practice you may have so many documents in relation to internal environment analysis, value chain so many pages, resource and competences so many pages, external environment analysis, for example pest analysis you may have so many pages, from place to place you may have identified threat and opportunities, then 5 forces, right. So, we want to take the summary of all these analysis, that will be done through the corporate appraisal by using the SWOT tool. SWOT will be the main tool we are going to use for that particular purpose. Right. But remember, sometimes I have seen in practice, without conducting internal and external environment analysis, some organization directly move to the corporate appraisal. This is especially the case with the small organizations. They do not have resources to conduct internal environment analysis and the external environment analysis. What they do is directly they look at about the SWOT analysis, based on that they identify the appropriate study for the organization. But normally medium or large organization, normally they go with this rationale process. Right, we will look at about the SWOT. Under this there are 4 topics we have to cover: SWOT, then Trough's matrix, TOWS, then number 3 is critical success factors or CSF, number 4 is key performance indicators. Right. So, first of all we will look at about what is SWOT analysis. Very simple actually. Now, I told you at the beginning, this try to merge the result of internal environment analysis and the external environment analysis. From the internal environment analysis we identify strength and the weakness. From the external environment analysis we identify opportunities and threat. From this tool we try to merge the result of that. If you look at about the strength and weaknesses, both are internal factors. If you look at the opportunities and threat, those are external factors. What is strength? Strength is any factor, right, any internal factor, something which can be identified within the organization that is helpful to achieve the organizational objectives. Weakness is again internal factor that may lead to an organization not to achieving its goals. or in other words something which is harmful to achieve the organizational goals. Opportunity is not an internal factor, no. The first two are internal factor, opportunity is an external factor that is helpful in allowing the organization to achieve its objectives. External factor which is helpful to achieve the organizational objective we identify as opportunity. Threat, any external factor that is harmful to achieve the organizational objectives we identify as a threats. First two are internal factors, last two are external factors. It is very simple, I think everyone know that. If I take example on this strength, if you are very strong in financial position, that is a strength of the organizations. We have very experienced competence workforce, that is a strength for the organizations. If you are having a good location where customers can easily access to your place, that is an example for strength. In other words, convenient customer locations. Weakness, what are the example of weakness? For example, suppose we have unskillful labor force, that is an example for weakness. Our location is not easily accessible to the customers. We have very bad location from the customer point of view, that is a weakness. Opportunity, suppose use of internet for business transaction is an opportunity. For example, you can expand your business activities by introducing online sales, opportunity. Availability of new market is an opportunity. For example, North and Eastern province is an opportunity for many businesses in other provinces. Stable exchange is an opportunity. Exit of one of the main competitor from the market is an opportunity. Higher GDP growth rate is an opportunity. So, what are the example for threats? High inflation is an example for threat. Inflation increase the cost of the products, that ultimately lead to increase in prices, that will reduce the demand for the products. Right. Any other example for the threat? New competitor enter into a market is a threat for the business. Higher tax rate charged by the government is a threat for the business. Withdrawal of subsidy given by the government is a threat for the business. Right, next topic, how SWOT factors to be used in strategy formulations. So, when you are developing strategies, we had used these SWOT factors. So, how can we use this? Strength, what we have to do? So, we have to identify some strategies which can use the strength of the organizations. Exploit, use the strength of the organizations. So, what are the example on this? For example, suppose within our organizations we have different kind of employees coming from different backgrounds. For example, say we have Tamils, Muslims, Sinhala. Suppose at the moment we are operating only in Western province. So, now you can use that Tamil and Muslim people within the organization as a strength to expand our business activities to North and Eastern province. Then weakness side, what we have to do? We have to eliminate the weakness from the strategic options we identify. For example, if I take very simple example, if your English knowledge is very poor, so you have to identify some strategies to eliminate that one. No? For example, reading English newspapers, reading English books, participating in English classes, like that. Then so opportunities, how you have to use, you identify some strategies to capitalize the opportunity. For an example, if there is a new market in north and eastern province, you should identify a strategy to go to that north and eastern province market. Then next one, how you can use threat under strategic options. If there is a threat, you have to identify some strategies to face the threat, protect the organization from that particular threat. For an example, we will say on a classroom, we will say physical classroom, you found that newcomer is available in the internet, there is a threat for the survival of the physical classroom. So, what did you identify as a strategic option? Introduce online lecturing for the students. Right. Then Strauss matrix. This is not something completely different from SWOT actually. We are using the SWOT tool here, but in a different way. Strauss, the 4 main element identified in the SWOT model is used within the Strauss model also. Remember the SWOT model, here S refers to the strength, here W refers to the weakness, then O opportunity, 3 threat, then we took the first 4 letters and we call it as SWOT. Now here Strauss, what happened? We take in the other way around. We start from the threat, right, then opportunity, then weaknesses, then strength, right. So, here the emphasis point is to consider more on the external aspects. We want to emphasize the importance of looking about the external environment here, right. So, therefore, we start from the threats. The SWOT model, we start from the strength. No, strength is related with the internal environment, but T is related with the external environment. To emphasize the importance of the external factors, here we start with the external environment. So, look at this first sentence given, Strauss matrix, in order to emphasize the importance of threats and opportunities, we look at about the external aspects here. So, here he identifies some strategic option also based on the Strauss matrix. What are the strategic option we can identify based on the Strauss matrix? For an example, SO strategies, actually we can identify 4 strategies here, SO strategies, ST strategies, WO strategies, WT strategies. What is this? Strength opportunity strategies, strength threat strategies, weakness opportunity strategies, weakness threat strategies. So, we look at about each one. What is SO strategies? SO strategies employ strength to seize opportunities. SO strategies are used to capitalize the opportunities by using the strength. Here we used the strength of our organization to capitalize the opportunities available in the external market. That is why we say SO strategies. This is sometimes referred to as Maximaxi strategy. Earlier I took example use of that Tamil and Muslim people in the organization to capitalize the opportunity in eastern and north provinces. That is an example for SO strategy. Then ST strategy, strength and threat. What is ST strategy? Here we use the strength of the organization to face the threat to avoid the threats. We use the strength of the organization to face the threats. This is sometimes called as maxi-mini strategy. So, what are the example on this? For an example, suppose within our organization we have very good IT staff, they are capable of doing anything. So, we found now there is a new competitor in the market using this online selling, but we can use these IT people to introduce some online platform for the customers. The next one is WO strategies. Look at these WO strategies. WO strategies address weaknesses so as to be able to exploit opportunities. So, it try to eliminate the weaknesses which will help you to use the opportunities in the external environment. For an example, suppose internally we do not have people who can speak Tamil, therefore, we can't go to north and eastern province market. In that scenario, what we will do? We will identify a strategy to address the weakness. For example, we may take a decision to recruit some new employees who can speak Tamil language. So, then later we can capitalize the opportunity we have. This is sometime referred to as the mini maxi strategy. The strategy is called mini maxi strategy sometime. Then the next strategy is WT strategies. Now, what is this WT strategies? WT strategies are defensive, aiming to avoid threat and the impact of weakness. Here the objective is to avoid threats and the impact of weakness. This is called as mini strategy. Right. For example, we will say, so we are not good in technology. Suppose we are operating in Colombo district, we may take a decision to move from Colombo district to some other area. The objective is to avoid the threat we have. Right. So, mini maxi strategy. Right. With that, we can complete the Strauss matrix. Actually, Strauss metric is introduced to this new syllabus. This was not in the previous syllabus, but this was there in the syllabus from 2005 to 10. I remember this was there. Now, again this has been introduced, the Strauss matrix. Right. So, then we will move to the next critical success factors, OCSF. The same thing have been defined in different way. Sometimes I have seen same thing is identified as key success factors, KSFS, right, key, SFS, key success factors, right. What is this critical success factor? Look at the definition given here. Critical success factors are those actions that must be performed well in order for the goals and objectives established by an organization be met successfully. CSF are those actions that must be performed well, areas where you have to perform well in order to achieve the goals and objectives. Look at the next definition given, Johnson Scholars and Whittington definitions, how they define CSF. Those components of strategy where the organization must excel to outperform competitions. Those components of strategy where the organization must excel to outperform competitions. Areas where you can defeat the competitions. These are underpinned by competences which ensure this success. What is that? Normally, the CSF can be delivered through the competences you have within the organizations. The CSF are more industry related factors. In other words, these come from the external environment. These come from the external environment. So, internally what we have to do is, we have to develop competencies that can deliver the external requirement. If you look at the CSF, these critical success factors are normally qualitative measures. These are qualitative measures. These are qualitative measures. At the same time, the CSF tell you the cause for success. සාර්ථක වෙන්න නම් අපි ඉටු කරන්න ඕන දේවල්. හේතු වෙන කාරණා තමයි අපි CSF වලින් හඳුනගන්නේ. That's why it say that these are some of the things where you have to perform well. CSF will differ from one industry to another. For an example, if I take courier industry, right, courier service industry as an example, right, courier service. So, what are the critical success factors we have to look at? Think this from customer point of view. As a customer, what are the factors you look at when you select a courier service provider to send a parcel to a foreign country? For an example, you may be worried about the cost, how much you want to spend to send your parcel to the foreign country. Not only cost, you will worry about the speed of the service, how many days it will take to deliver the parcel to the foreign country. Another factor you will look at about is the reliability of the service, whether parcel will be delivered to the right person without any problems. Right, these are examples for the CSF in courier service industry. So, with that I am moving to the next key performance indicators, KPIs. What is KPIs? An important measure of a critically important aspect of performance for which target is set and actual performance is measured. Look at an important measure of a critically mean important, very important, no? Critically important aspect of performance for which a target is set and actual performance is measured. Now here what we do is we identify KPIs for areas where the performance should be measured. For an example, say customer satisfaction is an area where we want to measure the performance. We try to identify some indicator which can be used to measure that. For an example, sales income is one KPI we can use. Another KPI we can use is the number of customers. What normally we do is, based on these KPIs, we set targets. For an example, for the marketing department, we may give a target for them on sales, income and the number of customers they should capture. Then at the end of a particular time period, we measure the actual performance. For example, at the end of the year. Based on that, we can come to a judgment whether the marketing people have performed well or not. For an example, suppose we have given a target of we have given a sales target of, we will say 10 million. At the end of the year, suppose they have achieved only 5 million sales target, that indicate they have not performed well. Right, what is the relation between CSF and KPIs? CSF define the cause for success? Normally, we identify some KPIs to measure the CSF. KPI measure the effect for success or effect of success. For an example, customer satisfaction is a CSF we want to meet. The KPI will be sales income, number of customers, number of customer complaints, From these KPIs, we are going to measure the customer satisfactions. Normally, for ECSF, we identify few KPIs. Right. Look at the balance part also. There should be a key performance indicator or a small for every CSF. I explained that part for you. Purpose of KPI is to enable management to measure and control progress in each of the CSF. CSF are qualitative, KPIs are quantitative. Yes, I told you CSF are qualitative measures, KPIs are quantitative measures. Normally, we give a amount. For example, sales income. When you are giving a target, we give an amount for them. No, therefore, KPI is a quantitative, but customer satisfaction is a qualitative measure. The CSF describe cause for success, KPI are the effect of success. So, with that we can complete the chapter 5.